Good morning YouTube, hope you are doing well. We are back for another week in the books of the autumn book. How are we all? Hope you're doing well, because I am not. So as I mentioned in the last vlog, if you watched it or as you've probably seen on Instagram, we're going to quickly move out of the kitchen because this is going to be making heaps of noise. So this weekend it was a mate's birthday from work and we went down to Wales for the weekend to a little place called Narberth, and we got absolutely Narberth is the only way I can describe it. Yeah, it was just a big piss up, plenty of good food, right? But how do I feel this week? Pretty dreadful, the start of this week. I think when you're someone who normally lives so quote unquote healthily, it's real obvious when you've had a weekend where you've drank, where you've eaten a load of shit food, like that difference in feeling is so drastic, right? I'm not exaggerating this, like anyone that lives a similar lifestyle to me, you can probably attest to this. This is something that I've tried to communicate through content before a lot of times, is like people that lead the quote unquote normal lifestyle these days, right? So it's a lot of processed food, a lot of convenience food. They probably like a drink quite often throughout the week. Most people I know, like, sleep isn't the biggest priority and they don't sleep the best, right? They lead like a lifestyle where they're not the healthiest, right? A lot of people aren't necessarily unhealthy, right? This isn't like bashing people, and there's a lot of reasons. Convenience, just generally the stress of day to day. There's a lot of reasons why people live a lifestyle such as that. It's not to bash or to give a negative, just to bring some attention to it. But it becomes so normal for you to feel the way that you feel when you're living this lifestyle. And what I mean by that is that you get used to the feeling, right? You've got nothing to contrast it against. There's nothing to compare it to. And if there's nothing to compare it to, you enjoy, or quote unquote enjoy, these things that you are partaking in. I know for myself that when there was periods of my life where I was drinking a lot or getting a lot of takeaway, it became more of a crutch and more of an impulse, a compulsion to live in that way, than it was actually treating and rewarding myself. I wasn't actually enjoying the thing anymore. I was kind of almost regretting it every time that I did it, but that's a different story. If you are wanting to make a big change in your life and live a healthier lifestyle, you need a good reason to do it, right? And what we see in a lot of people, this can be a health scare, which we don't want to be the case for you. It can be that you just get to a point where you feel so, let's call it what it is, like depressed in yourself. Like you have no pride in the person that you see in the mirror. You're not living a life that is rewarding to you, so you finally snap and then you have to make this change, right? But your motivation to change could be something as simple, if you had lived it, to just feeling good on a day-by-day basis. And that's something that I try and communicate to people, is that the reason that I live this lifestyle isn't just because I have a physique, which I think is pretty good, right? Not to toot my own trumpet, but it's getting better, right? And it's a passion of mine and it's my job because I coach people, so all of this is encompassing. But it's not just for those things. The primary thing is the fact that it allows me to feel good most days. Not today because of the weekend. It allows me to chase the goals and whatever it is that I have with the most energy, with the most zeal, right, to throw in a fancy word. It makes me feel competent. It makes me feel like me, right? And I have a weekend like this and I feel god awful. What also wasn't wise is that I've suddenly decided that I'm quitting caffeine, right? And this is something I think I'll save this as more of a topic for the next video next week. I need to actually put it as a little reminder for me, because I want to remember to make this video, because it is quite an important thing. But it's generally the dopamine detoxing idea, right? So at the same time, I've decided to quit caffeine. I've got fucking decaf green tea, right? How dead is that? Dead as a dodo. And I think I did mention this in the last video a little bit. What someone's trying to do generally across the board is de-stimulate myself, right? Why? Why am I trying to de-stimulate myself? Well, because not only is my day-to-day life consistent of doing the boring, monotonous things that bring process in training, that bring process, but bring progress in training, that bring progress in my work and coaching. Look, and I think this is a problem that a lot of people have these days, right? It's just the motivation to do the right thing. People struggle with motivation. I don't have a good reason to do this hard thing because it is hard. And I think a problem that a lot of people have is, again, this sort of dopamine reward system is just absolutely fucked. They're used to eating hyper-palatable food all the time so that healthy food becomes boring. They're used to endless scrolls. They're used to Netflix binges so that training in the gym seems absolutely fucking boring. Going for a walk seems like the driest, most mundane thing in the world. You have to have a YouTube video that you watch while you're going. This is me, by the way. I started to notice that everything I was doing, I would have a YouTube video on in the background, and the excuse for doing so was because, well, I can learn some things, right? And I can educate myself while I'm doing boring, monotonous stuff. But I wasn't really educating myself because I'm kind of doing two things at once. My brain is distracted, it's scatty. No wonder people can begin to feel overwhelmed. They can begin to feel anxious. And again, it's just so much stimulation going right into your head, right? It's dramatic. So what am I trying to do? Well, I'm trying to do more things just on their own, right? Something that's ridiculous is I bought a pair of chopsticks, right? Or a couple pair of chopsticks. So I can more practice mindful eating, which is where when I eat my meals, I just eat my meals and I try and eat them slowly and just be there in the moment with that. It's like when I come down in the morning now to cook the breakfast, I would always have a YouTube video on, always. I would never cook without having some kind of stimulation, right? Whereas now, I'm trying to come down and just cook without music. I'm showering without music, and all this seems very boring. And in the short term, it is. But the goal of doing this is so that I can have more enjoyment and more motivation to do the simple things again. I want to read more. I want to play more guitar. What I don't want to do more of is pointless fucking scrolling, where I'm not even present with it. I'm not learning anything. It doesn't add any value to me. I want to be able to do the boring, monotonous work for long periods of time that bring a really more long-term rewarding sense of fulfillment. Ultimately, I don't want to have to drag my ass through my work and through training, which is where I felt I was maybe a week and a half ago. I kind of just felt like, again, I always needed something else as a reason to get into work. I need to be hyped up on stims, right? So I've just quit caffeine and I quit nicotine a year ago today. It was around a year ago. But to conclude that bit of waffle talk, I think a lot of people's issue these days, or I think something that is at least a factor in healthier lifestyle, is that your brain is used to these high dopamine activities that are so readily available that doing the right thing becomes very difficult to do, because why would you have any motivation to do the hard, boring, tedious thing when instead you can lie in bed and scroll endlessly? You can have a few taps on your phone and get food delivered to your house. Why are you going to put the effort into cooking things? Because life is hard, right? Well, then doing these things and being addicted to these things, guess what? It's harder. I think with the rise of AI and how crazy things are going to get, this is going to become more of a problem. So I'm trying to get ahead of the curve. I'm trying to live more zen. Now what I mean. Anyway, waffle over. Good evening, YouTube. I hope you're doing well. It is Wednesday night. No training footage for this week's vlog because I am an idiot and completely forgot to take the camera with me to the training session today. It was a generally pretty good session. We had a little mini deload last week just because even though it was only 5 weeks into the training phase, already I was feeling like battered, joints were hurting. Now this is the thing, right? Some people say deload is every 8 weeks, deload is every 10 weeks, every 12 weeks. You can't put a timeline on it, right? And for a lot of people, 5 weeks of training and then you're hitting a deload does seem like quite a shortish amount of time, right? But if that is what the body is calling for, I've been hitting training incredibly hard. I'm doing more volume than I've ever done, I think, across the whole physique, to be honest. So I'm just trying to really find about where my sort of perfect medium is. So other than that, obviously some lifts kind of felt a little bit strange because it's been a good amount of time since I've done them. Others were better. I think I'm still recovering from the weekend, to be honest. And I also did my first weigh-in this week, as I'm supposed to weigh myself every single day, to be honest. I think I was apprehensive to see the damage of the weekend. So I brought my diet back to normal. This week we were 177.4 pounds this morning, right? Less than ideal. Now some people might be like, oh, it's water weight, right? Which is like a good excuse, and sometimes it can be water weight, right? If this had been right after the weekend, I would have said, fair enough, this is probably just a little bit of water weight. But we are 3 days post weekend now, and that is 2 days perfectly back on plan, right? which is interesting because I did say this was going to be the perfect bulk phase, right? Which was the plan. This holiday was completely forgotten about when I first obviously mapped this out. I guess it hasn't been perfect, right? All literally just what, 5 weeks in or 6 weeks in, whatever we're at now. So this is the point where some people might be like, oh, we're going to let things completely fall apart because I've fucked up and whatever. But we're not going to do that. What I'm going to do for the rest of the week is try and reduce calories just slightly. I want to see if I can do a little bit of a mini tidy up phase if possible. I want to try and get down to really back to like 174 pounds potentially. Once I get a weight of 174 pounds, then we'll go again. But I'm going to take away even a few calories from what was my normal nutrition plan, not in the title, but what it is going to be after that as well. As I do think to an extent, there's still, the weight was still going up a little bit quicker than I would have liked. I want to really be going up less than £1 a week on average would be sort of the sweet spot. Now it's very hard to kind of gauge where that is, but anyway, we have final meal of the day going in. I have changed meal up to firecracker chicken. I'm loving this. You're probably wondering the entire time I've been talking, why am I eating with chopsticks, right? I've got that, what's the word, fucking pretentious, right, that I'm special, I'm using chopsticks now. Again, to really try and bring my nutrition under control. This comes back to the dopamine thing, which I'm going to talk more about next week, I think, in next week's vlog. Mindful eating, right? I want to slow down the pace with which that I eat, right? I'm not very adept at using chopsticks, so it's going to take me a little bit longer to eat my meals, which is an intentional thing because, well, I just want to slow down my eating, take a little bit more time with the meals as I eat them. I enjoy the food a little bit more. Try and activate the parasympathetic nervous system so I can digest food properly, and also hopefully combat overeating to a certain extent. That's the goal. So we're gonna see if it works, and also it's just something new to learn, right? Because as you can see, I'm definitely not the best at using it. But that's the update. Apologies that literally all of the footage this week has been in the house. It might have been quite boring to watch. I suppose a sit down talk episode is not so bad from time to time. So next week, back to pretty much normal. Oh my god, I'm butchering this. And we'll see what's occurring. But yeah, I think that is everything for this week. I'm gonna just finish and eat this meal. And that's everything. If you want to carry on following the journey, please do consider subscribing if you're not already. And let's see if we can resolve this little bit of a speed bump and get right back to the perfect bulk. Peace.